Hola. Hello. I appreciate you for being here with me for a reading from the Handbook of Research on Teachers of Color and Indigenous Teachers. We continue with Chapter 26. Chapter 26 is titled E-Communities: How an HBCU Research Practice Partnerships Community Cultural Wealth Galvanized Minoritized Students Access to STEM Spaces. By Professor Deena Khalil at Howard University. By Professor Angel Miles Nash at Chapman University. By Professor Adrian Wayne Bruce at Howard University. By Professor Joanna Sanchez at Excelencia in Education. And by Professor Meredith Kier at William and Mary. Thanks to the professors, we get to continue with page 348 from the Handbook of Research on Teachers of Color and Indigenous Teachers. First, I invite you to kick back and relax. Chapter 26. From the section Literature Review. Subsection: HBCU Instructional Preparation Principles. Finally, many HBCUs instructional practices support post-secondary students' matriculation into STEM degrees through a village pedagogy of mentoring, storytelling, and service learning. Cited from Harris in 2012, Stinson in 2008, Toldson in 2018. HBCUs nurture higher education students to success. However, HBCU outreach is not limited to developing partnerships that prepare students as STEM professionals. There is also a history of establishing programs for K-12 students of color to give them early exposure to college-level academic materials through mentorship in informal learning spaces. cited from Spellman and more in 2014. Although students of color consider guidance a theoretical feature in their career pursuits, providing mentorship experiences in formal learning settings has not been a focal point of many public school systems, especially in underserved communities. Cited from Lau and Moore in 2016, Khalil and Kier in 2017. Next, mentorship. From the subsection, HBCU Instructional Preparation Principles. Mentorship. HBCU collaborations emphasize mentorship of minoritized students because accessibility to advisors is evidenced to substantiate academic success. Cited from McClinton and Moore in 2018, Palmer and Gassman in 2008. One such partnership is the Technology Leadership Awareness Program, which affirms HBCUs across the country in offering 2-week programs to teach K-12 students about the importance of technology in careers before they reach college. Cited from the Career Communications Group, Incorporated, 2014. Alternative partnerships that HBCUs use to cultivate STEM awareness among pre-college students includes the collaborations they maintain with professional preparation and development organizations, such as the National Society of Black Engineers. For example, the National Society of Black Engineers members in the Alabama A&M University and Allen University chapters serve as mentors in the pre-college initiative program in an effort to spark STEM interest among 3rd through 12th grade students with the goal of inspiring them to pursue degrees in engineering and technical fields. Cited from the National Society of Black Engineers, 2014. Thus, mentoring, whether by peers or informal spaces, has been critical for driving minoritized P through 12 students' interest and persistence in STEM spaces. For example, Lee and Moore in 2019 and McGee McClinton, and more in 2018. Next, storytelling. Another essential instrumental principle that HBCUs employ is the art of storytelling. Strad in 2014, Wesley and Summers 2007. As a way of culturally affirming ways of knowing while simultaneously countering deficit dominant narratives. Cited from Delgado and Stanifico. Delgado and Stefan Sik 2001. Personal narratives. Personal narratives support the passing down of cultural traditions and societal legacies for attaining educational and community centered excellence. Storytelling is also used as a method for upholding the value and prominence of education rooted in the contributions of Black communities. For example, Kennedy, 2012, describes how HBCUs can be a liberating institution for women, particularly when they pre-service spaces for women to describe their lived experiences as citrions for meaning making, and where dialogue is exercised as access knowledge claims. And where dialogue is exercised to access knowledge claims. Conversely, storytelling can also be used as an, quote, intellectual weapon, unquote. Cited from Hua, 2013. To form counter narratives in areas that Black students are traditionally marginalized, such as the STEM education pipeline. Cited from Stinson in 2008, Watkins and Mensah 2019. The spaces in which storytelling is used, both written and spoken, can become pedagogical sites of resistance that remedy the challenges that HBCU students face as they work to learn what has and will improve their pathways into STEM spaces. Cited from White and more in 2019. Service learning. Next. In addition to developing post-secondary students through STEM partnerships, HBCUs have incorporated authentic service learning pedagogies when preparing and developing minoritized candidates in law, education, social work, engineering, and medicine, as cited from Winkle, Wagner, and McCoy, 2018. Similarly, programs at HBCUs prepare teacher candidates to serve communities, usually culturally specific pedagogies that further academic achievement. Cited from Dilworth, 2012. Gassman and Moore in 2017. Irvine and Fenwick in 2011. From their foundation, HBCU teacher education programs reach beyond the university through a combination of service and activism. Cited from Harper and Moawni, 2017. Indeed, many HBCUs were initially, quote, normal schools, unquote, that were specifically established to train black teachers and leaders to educate members of the community. Cited from Brown and Davis, 2001. Edwards, 2018. Fairclough, 2009. Palmer and Gassman, 2008. Likewise, MSIs provide more productive and more accessible opportunities for clinical practice and student teaching as they maintain close relationships with local school districts in their surrounding communities. Cited from Gassman and Moore in 2007. Teachers educated at HBCUs, most of whom are teachers of color, have been found to provide valuable social historic perspectives when instructing and caring for their students, as they are frequently from the same racial or similar cultural backgrounds, and they immerse themselves in or come from local communities. Cited from Akbar and Sims, 2008. James and Moore, 2020. Next, service learning in teacher education. Next, service learning in teacher education. HBCU teacher education programs serve as the genesis for the encouragement of teachers of color who work to build and sustain socially just populations in and out of schools. HBCUs continue to support teachers' professional learning as they are immersed in the classroom. For example, they have cultivated programs that assist early teacher education. For example, they have cultivated programs that assist early career teachers and veteran teachers as they work to enter and grow in the field, respectively. Educators have expounded on the importance of mentoring they received from their HBCUs. Cited from Hobson and Moore in 2012. Stating that the guidance provides a sense of assurance from which novice teachers benefit. Similarly, experienced teachers have grown in their professional practice, thanks to the initiative strategies HBCUs utilize to support them, including online learning programs. Cited from Harkness, 2015. A hallmark of teacher education for HBCUs is that pre-service and in-service teachers are prepared and reinforced to use critical knowledge and frames of reference for racially and ethnically diverse students in order to make learning more relevant and impactful. Cited from Gay, 2010. In a study that compared science teacher preparation programs at predominantly white institutions with that of HBCUs, Marbach ad McGuinness and Dentley, 2018, found that HBCU interns and graduates, quote, thought it was very important to be taught by a culturally responsive manner. Quote, thought it was very important to be taught in a culturally responsive manner, while their predominantly white counterparts did not. Unquote. Page 18. In recognition that minoritized students tend to have better learning outcomes when teachers use culturally specific pedagogical practices. Cited from Latson Billings, 2016. Lee and Moore, 2019. Sorry. Teachers who receive professional learning opportunities from an HBCU are more supportive of students' cultural assets as as building blocks to their learning and valuing of education. Teachers who receive professional learning opportunities from an HBCU are more supportive of students' cultural assets as building blocks to their learning and valuing of education. When teachers prioritize and value the community cultural wealth of their students, they are able to shape how students can practice centering their voices in society. Cited from Yoso, 2005. Although HBCUs maintain numerous informal learning opportunities and programs that offer intensive pre-college access to STEM and prepare and support teachers of color in the field, there is little empirical research focused on HBCU research practice partnerships, effects on formal learning opportunities. This chapter attempts to address this gap by describing e-communities, which sought to meet the needs of STEM teachers, students, and professionals of color as well as student leaders by using concrete strategies that help them construct meaningful, socially just STEM pedagogy. And we're pausing here. Thank you for joining me for this reading from the Handbook of Research on Teachers of Color and Indigenous Teachers. This has been from page 349. From the subsection, HBCU Instructional Preparation Principles. We just read mentorship, storytelling, service learning, and service learning in teacher education. This was thanks to Chapter 26. Thanks to the professors from Chapter 26. Professor Deena Khalil at Howard University. Professor Angel Miles Nash at Chapman University. By Professor Adrian Wayne Bruce at Howard University. By Professor Joanna Sanchez at Excelencia in Education. By Professor Meredith Kier at William and Mary. Thank you, professors, for this subsection. Thank you for writing Chapter 26, and because of you, we read this part of your chapter, which was the subsection about HBCU Instructional Preparation Principles. From your chapter, E-communities. How an HBCU research practice partnerships cultural wealth. How an HBCU's research practice partnerships community cultural wealth galvanized minoritized students' access to STEM spaces. Thank you, professors, for having written Chapter 26 from the Handbook of Research on Teachers of Color and Indigenous Teachers. Thanks to you, the professors, we can continue looking forward to more from Chapter 26, and that subsection now leads us to page 349, where we will continue with, drumroll, the next section, designing e-communities. We can look forward to this and more from the handbook. Till next time, I wish you a good day.